Hello and welcome to the Full Scottish here on Broadcasting Scotland, and a very happy new year to all of our viewers. We're joined today for the first Full Scottish of the new year by Linda Fabiani, MSP for East Kilbride, and by Andrew Wilson from All Under One Banner. Good morning, folks. How are we today?
Hi, Kenny.
It's not even morning anymore. That shows how well prepared I am for today's show. So our first story today, that we had been expecting all week that we would be talking about the forest fires in Australia, and we will get to that. But in the last couple of days, we have seen Donald Trump, America, assassinate Qasem Soleimani, one of the highest-ranking generals in Iran, thought to be probably the second most powerful person in Iran. He was in Iraq and was hit by an airstrike from the Americans. This has led many people in America and around the world to warn that we might be on the brink of war. And first of all, Linda, I suppose, what was your reaction hearing about this?
I was just stunned. It was one of these moments of waking up to the radio talking about this, and I couldn't believe that I was hearing it right. I had to very quickly waking up and look it up and see what had happened, and I'm stunned by it. I'm also stunned by the gung-ho attitude of, the President of the United States actually boasting about this and putting it out in social media, and then to learn that, he's had top people resign. Mm-hmm. And you start to think, is that because they knew that this was the plan and they were opposed to it? I just feel that when you think it can't get any worse, you pull something out of the hat and does something worse all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of a lot of people's problems with Trump, is that he is so unpredictable. And Andrew, as Linda says, several top Pentagon officials resigned just a matter of a week or two ago. And as Linda says as well, a lot of people seem to think that this was what was in the works, and that's why they resigned. We've heard that Eric Trump, the president's son, had deleted a tweet on Hogmanay saying something like, "We're about to open a big old can of whoop-ass," which implies, as well, some people think it implies that he knew. And Eric Trump does not have top security clearance. It is wrong that the president's son should know about a military attack when Congress doesn't. So again, it's just this whole picture of Trump not behaving within the kind of the train tracks of normal constitutional democracy.
I think that's absolutely right, Kenny. I think by the size and scale and the way in which the US military operates, they will have been continuously presenting to the Commander-in-Chief a range of options of things to do. I suspect this strike was on that range of options, but it will have been presented as being the most extreme option. There will have been much more proportionate and a range of other things. I think the difficulty they face is that with this president, depending on the mood or the circumstances or what time of day it is, he will determine he will reach for the most extreme option simply because the power that he is wielding is so severe and so significant that I think he probably, in a twisted kind of way, enjoys it and certainly proportionality. I don't think that's a concept that really crosses his mind at all.
Yeah, I mean, this is something many people are now saying this was an act of war. And under the US Constitution, he should have, at the very least, informed Congress. And really, if it is to become war, then it should have been up to Congress to make a decision on that. It's Congress's job to declare war. So once again, we see Trump just acting, as I say, just out with the kind of norms, out with the rules, and perhaps leading America into another war. Do you suspect that this is going to drag the UK in as well?
Well, there's lots of issues there. I think Boris Johnson has been remarkable for not having having come on and spoken about this. America is supposed to have allies through all sorts of international organisations. Did the UK government know this was going to happen? There's questions if they did, big questions. But if they didn't, there's big questions too. And I really have concerns about this man that sits in the White House and just appears to issue edicts about what's to happen in the rest of the world, like he's responsible for the whole world. And I have huge concerns about the Iran-US situation anyway, because that goes back a long way. And I'm concerned too that from what I'm hearing now, it seems that some of the international community are saying things like Iran must look for the diplomatic route. How about America looking for the diplomatic route? Why do we always assume that the US must have it right? Because I think it's increasingly obvious that they don't have it right. And I would like those who purport to be leading the UK to come out and start talking about this. This is serious stuff. It's not just somebody sitting on social media and having a laugh. This is serious stuff with potentially really bad consequences.
I think Linda's point about the silence from the Prime Minister is absolutely right. I think there's concern that as Foreign Secretary, his approach to Iran ended up with a UK citizen still in jail in Tehran, and I think it may be either he doesn't understand or he's been stopped from or hindered from saying anything because he knows, his handlers know, that his track record on dealing with political matters in Iran is shocking. But on top of that, in the UK military deployment already, I think HMS Defender and HMS Montrose have been moved back to the Gulf to patrol with UK flagged shipping. So there are Scottish and British men and women serving in the Gulf now who are being put in harm's way, and the Prime Minister has said nothing about it, and that's unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of whether this does escalate further, it does put British soldiers in harm's way. I mean, virtually anything that happens in that whole region has the potential to create ripples of violence throughout the region, and I think that's one of the things that we have to keep an eye on. When we do think about what happens next, though, what's your feeling on what happens next? Do you think that Trump wants a war? I mean, it's one of those things that sometimes in the run up to a difficult election, there are allegations that political leaders tend to do like these things.
Well, of course, and as ever with the current US president, there is a tweet for every set of circumstances, and so we can see his tweets from when he wasn't president, accusing the then President Barack Obama of seeking re-election by attempting to start a war in Iran, which President Barack Obama did not do.
It's quite the reverse of what Obama did, in fact.
Correct. So it's obvious that suggests it may have been something that may be a strategy that was on has been on the mind of Trump or his advisors for some time, and he does have a number of notorious hawks in his administration. Whereas other presidents will have been constrained in some ways by the train tracks or by convention or by the norms of international diplomacy. I think not least because Trump has little experience of running organisations. The Trump organisation was only, as I understand it, only ever employed directly about 15 or 20 people. It was always a small group of people surrounding him. Obviously, the hotels and so on would have broader staffs, but the Trump organisation, the core, was only a small group of people. So I wonder whether he has the ability to comprehend and operate in a large structure. And as a result, I think we see policies being made in the middle of the night or on the hoof, and policies that in the cold light of day very few other people might have followed.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's never had he's not had a good track record of cooperation with the international order. I mean, he withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal, which does directly affect Britain and the EU as signatories to that deal. So what's your feeling on how things are going to play out now?
Well, Andrew was talking about policies. I'm not even convinced he has any policies. It seems to me this guy is just a complete wild card, and it's all about reaction, and it's all about self-centeredness and how it affects him. It seems to me there's nothing about the bigger picture. We're looking at a man who's currently going through an impeachment process, so the cynic in me starts to say, this man would do anything to try and take attention away from that. And I don't think he is capable of thinking about consequences. It's all about in the moment and about him. And I'm still stunned that we have the supposed leader of the free world as someone like this. I don't think he's a decent guy. I don't think he is capable of thought beyond himself and how it affects him. And that is so concerning. And I think the rest of the international community, I wish I had more faith in some of them, but really have to be getting together with the US and saying, look, you have a responsibility here. You can't run around the world like a big bully. And I remember that kind of thing was getting said about Bush, W. Bush, you know, and we were all up in arms about him. And you look back on it now and you think, that was nothing compared to this guy. Absolutely nothing. I think we're on the verge of potential huge trouble in the Middle East by this. And the international community has to pull in and start talking diplomacy with the US, not just with Iran. They have set this off because you used the word at the start, assassination. It would seem to me that the lack of background in this, the lack of any detail that we're hearing, is a political assassination. And in this world, that's not acceptable these days when we have all these international organisations.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we will obviously keep following events in Iran. We hope there isn't a lot more news to report, to be honest. But we will follow that as it develops. But on to what I said was had been planned as our top story. The absolutely devastating bushfires in Australia. These have been going for weeks now, and they've consumed vast areas of Australia. There are fires in almost every part of Australia right now. Some of the worst forest fires we've seen anywhere in the world in my lifetime. This is almost without a doubt related to climate change. Australia has been facing its greatest drought in I think about 100 years. For the last 2 or 3 years, there has been a persistent, serious drought in Australia, and these bushfires are just the latest disaster to come from that. So, I suppose first of all, Linda, how do you feel when you see these pictures from Australia?
Oh, it's just devastating. You know, there is the loss of human life that has been, but also the natural habitat that is being wrecked. You know, the number of indigenous creatures that have been so badly affected by this as well. This is a huge wake-up call for any administration in Australia, you know, whether it be at state level, province level, or whether it be national. And there seems to be still quite a lot of denial. I was listening to a programme on the radio, and it was some of the elected MPs who have been pushing for real action about climate change for some time now. And they are still saying that those with power are refusing to listen. They've got to start listening to this. The devastation that's been wreaked is absolutely horrendous. And the anger that must be among the Australian people must be huge. I haven't seen reports about the level of homelessness yet and what's going to be done about it, because everything seems to be reaction at the moment. But there's a big reckoning to come.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a tweet this morning from a friend in Australia who was saying that her brother has just lost his home. So there are certainly an awful lot of people in that sort of situation. What is it though, Andrew? Why is it that even in the face of the worst forest fires their country has ever seen, the leaders of Australia still seem to be saying, "Oh, climate change, it's nothing to worry about. It's going to be fine."
Well, I think for news programmes this time of year, which is traditionally a quiet news time of year comparatively, that we're at the 5th of January and the President of the United States is threatening a third world war, and a part of the planet the size of Belgium is in flames. We're not short of news stories at this time. I think it's tolerably clear to say that those who deny climate change are motivated by money. There is little more to it than that, and I'm probably greater motive than I should. It seems to be entirely motivated by an extreme form of capitalism and the desire to make money. The close connections between the Australian government and the mining industries, coal in particular, but other mining industries as well, and their determination to continue to exploit the planet in a way which the 99.9% of scientists and other commentators have identified for some time is unsustainable. To be holding out in the face of that overwhelming weight of opinion, scientific evidence and opinion, suggests that the only motivations could be greed or fear, and in the context of climate warming, it must be greed. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, because certainly if we were going to be afraid of anything, you would think it would be a future where this is the normal.
Yeah, I can understand from a government's point of view about the economic state of the nation that they have to look after. I can understand that. You're talking about making people unemployed, you're talking about hardship, huge increase in welfare. But I think the issue with the Australian government is that they haven't even looked at transition. You know, they've allowed themselves to get to the stage where it's all or nothing. And they should have, over the years, whatever their political stripe was, over the years there should have been a transition plan to start moving away from what they're doing with the coal industry. And they don't even appear to have considered that as an option. And this ongoing denial is becoming absolutely ridiculous. And you do start to think to yourself, is it all about holding on to power? You know, looking to hold on to power to keep a certain part of the population happy. And I hope very, very much that even those who work in the coal industry at all levels will now say, okay, we really have to start rethinking this. We have to start from the bottom up and look at a way how we can move away from this. There must be other resources that can be used in Australia for renewables. There must be. To keep on saying that they can't do anything and that it's not a problem, it's just a freak thing that's happened, complete and utter rubbish.
Yeah, it's. It is just bizarre at this stage that we have so many world leaders who still deny that climate change is a thing. When even in this country where we don't have a lot of extreme temperatures, but we've seen more and more flooding, more and more strong winds,
yes.
more even the rain that we get now, I find, is way more intense. I know that sounds really strange, but the rain seems way more intense than it was when I was wee.
Wetter rain.
just more of it.
I wouldn't say even that we don't get extreme temperatures. It was 18.7 degrees in the Western Highlands last week.
Was it really?
Set another temperature
My
for the hottest December in Scotland on record again. So I agree, it's not an extreme. For the Northwest Highlands in December, it's an extreme temperature.
It is extremely warm.
But we are seeing land erosion and things like that. In our part of the hemisphere, there is an issue, and the scientists overwhelmingly have told us that there is an issue. We have to listen.
Yeah, our best wishes obviously go to everybody in Australia. There's, as I say, there's virtually no part of the country that is untouched, and it's going to be a long rebuilding effort. These massive forests just lost, homes, and as you said, the animals. There are so many endangered species in Australia that are now going to be significantly more endangered. I've even heard somebody talking about potential. We're talking about an extinction event, in that there may be a number of species that just don't recover from this. So. Our very best wishes to everybody in Australia at this time. We just hope that the fires can be stopped soon. Meanwhile, back in the UK and the US, there has been a leak of documents from Cambridge Analytica. More than 100,000 documents relating to work in 68 countries that are said to lay bare the infrastructure of an operation used to manipulate voters on an industrial scale across the world. This has come through an anonymous Twitter account called Hindsight Files, if you want to go and have a look. And they're thought to have come from Brittany Kaiser, who many people will remember from the Great Hack documentary. She was a Cambridge Analytica analyst who later turned whistleblower when she became concerned about what the company was up to. So I don't know how much you've seen of these files or how much you've heard about the story, but what's your just general feeling about this Cambridge Analytica and this manipulation of democracy?
Obviously, any manipulation of democracy is hugely concerning. I'm not an expert in any of this, but I do sometimes think that we overestimate the effect of something that's happening in social media. You know, those of us who use social media end up under the impression that absolutely everybody is using social media. They're not.
No.
Twitter, for example, is a fairly small village that uses it. Even Facebook. You know, loads of folk just use Facebook, very limited to keep in touch with their family and things. So I don't think we should think that every single voter in the land is being manipulated in some way by Cambridge Analytica. And also, we have always had some form of, wouldn't say manipulation, but propaganda. You know, through the press, dependent upon who has the power in particular. Newspapers, media channels, etc. So there has always been a degree of influence, whether it be the front page of a newspaper, whether it be Facebook, we're still there. However, what I do think is that there has to be some form of curb put on those who run around willy-nilly and think they're great big guys dealing with this thing and that they can manipulate populations. I don't know what the answer is. I wouldn't pretend to know what the answer is. But we have to clamp down on that kind of thing. I don't want my own information all over the place for these people to use. So there's a big issue about data management and how data is used that I don't think we've come to grips with, because it has all come so fast, and being able to keep up with it is very, very difficult.
Yeah. I mean, that is one of the kind of perpetual problems. Government is always going to be a step behind the technology. What do you think we can do to try and address some of this?
Well, I think your point is absolutely right. I'm absolutely sure that when radio party political broadcasts started, and certainly when television party political broadcasts started, there will have been concerns at the time. Yeah. Although those concerns, I suspect, at the time were addressed, so regulation was introduced to some extent or another, and that regulation will have grown over time. I think one of the challenges is that the financial strength of organisations like Facebook is such that they can resist, and also because they are such global businesses, they can resist regulation quite effectively, be that regulation to pay their taxes, let alone regulation with regard to the way in which they treat people's data around the planet, and in particular the way in which their platforms are then used to perpetuate and spread messages which you would be unlikely to be able to spread by other means which are more regulated. I think in the context of Cambridge Analytica there's an additional challenge from some of the documentation I think that's been leaked. It's apparent that they were in the business of providing electoral services, something slightly broader than simply data analysis and data management and messaging. I think there is certainly is a concern that the corporate structures that Cambridge Analytica used were set up deliberately in order to allow their customers to move financial resources around and to fund campaigns and to fund other organisations in a way that was not regulated. If that is so, then there is a particular concern. There are ongoing concerns with regard to dark money affecting our own politics in Scotland, let alone on a UK basis, let alone on a global basis. And in the context where and funding is very carefully regulated, and in circumstances where people are apparently seeking to avoid that regulation, then that is a real concern, and it is something that needs to be addressed for the good of all of the political parties and for the good of the process. If money is moving around, significant amounts of money is moving around in a way that is not transparent and is not open, then that is a significant concern.
Yeah. Linda, I mean, Scotland, as it's done on a number of issues, is taking something of a lead on this. The new Scottish referendums bill does contain provisions for dealing with false advertising online. This is something that current electoral law across the UK doesn't address. Do you think that's going to make much of a difference?
I think it will make a difference if it is dealt with in the spirit that's intended. We do have some form of regulation in place, as we've discussed, through the Electoral Commission, etc., but they don't appear to have any teeth. Far too often we hear they've been wrapped in the knuckles, and that's about it. I think we have to get a bit heavier, and it'll be interesting to see as we go through the legislative process, and then the operation of the referendums bill, just how that works out. I think it's a good message to be sending out, but it has to be applied seriously. And I think that's been one of the problems with regulation. We all hum and haw and we all moan about it and say, isn't it terrible? But actually, a wee fine, a rap in the knuckles, is nothing to these people that are moving about huge amounts of money. Andrew was talking about the dark money issue that we've heard. We haven't got to the bottom of that at all.
Not at all.
So let's get serious about some of this stuff, because democracy is so important. And if we're talking about democracy being attacked from all sides, whether it be the Cambridge Analytica stuff, through social media generally, manipulation of the press, and all these things, you have to have a structure in place that says, no, you're not getting away with that. And yes, it's good to be leading the way, but we have to show that we are, not just say that we have.
Absolutely. Now, of course, Cambridge Analytica manipulating people's data on Facebook is not the only kind of propaganda we have to deal with in the world. We have seen, we all have our gripes with the BBC. It's one of the reasons Broadcasting Scotland exists. But this week we saw a couple of great images. I hope we can bring those up just now. The BBC, I'll have to take that Twitter, the Twitter thing down. This is a very interesting picture here. This is a Happy New Year. Nicola Sturgeon's mouth is covered. We've got two Tories, and we've got Willie Rennie front and centre. This is the BBC's New Year message to us, and I mean it's quite a subtle one, but you look at that and you think, well, somebody wasn't thinking very carefully about how that looked.
Or maybe they were.
or maybe they were. Well, that's the other thing. And then this headline, which is I think an absolute masterful piece of misdirection.
Oh, yeah.
Scotland could have helped hundreds avoid HIV. This refers to the English NHS, the DHSS not accepting help from Scotland who had ways of addressing this. But the blame there seems to, if you read that looks like Scotland didn't do enough when it was actually England didn't ask for enough help. We've seen for a long time now, especially in 2013, 2014, the BBC doing a lot of things that a lot of us felt were not exactly fair. Is there anything we can do now, even within something like the referendums bill, is there anything we can do about the manipulation that we get from the sort of the good media?
Oh, it's such a difficult one. I go between real anger when I saw the New Year message with poor old Nicola getting gagged like that, and then the one about the blood supplies. I get really angry, and I feel, that it's a deliberate thing that they're doing. And then I calm down and I think, is it just because it is so establishment-centric that it doesn't even enter their heads that it's an issue? Are the SNP, as the government in Scotland and the party with overwhelming support in Scotland, is it that they still think of the SNP as some kind of outside pressure group or something, and that it's really not that deliberate? So I go between the two. But I think we have to keep calling it out. I think we're at the stage now where the strength of the SNP is being denied by what's supposed to be the national public broadcaster. So we have to keep calling it out. I know that Keith Brown has been doing a lot of that work on behalf of my own party. But I think it's time for the others to get on board as well. I mean, we're hearing Labour talking about democracy, we're hearing the Tories talk about democracy. How about the Scottish Tories and Scottish Labour looking at true democracy in Scotland, not just relative to their own parties and what suits their political agenda, but looking at it and saying, do you know what, this isn't right. And it should be, all of those who represent Scotland should be demanding that Scotland is represented fairly, and we've seen a bit of a lack of that.
Yeah, one of the things I found most interesting and I guess ironic during the general election campaign we've just finished was Labour people complaining about how biased the BBC was, how terrible the BBC was, and how they were full of manipulation and lies. And I was just saying, yeah, well, we did tell you that in 2014, yes. And you told us we were crazy. I mean, All Under One Banner has hardly had the most fair and balanced coverage in the mainstream media as well. What's your take on the media picture generally, and how we can basically try and get a more balanced picture out to people?
Well, I think your point about the reaction to the coverage of the last general election from those who were unsuccessful in England and Wales, I think your point is absolutely right, and I was going to make that point.
Sorry.
No. It's the 5 years on. There's a strong sense of déjà vu here. That's all. And I think the approach that some of the BBC in particular were taking, I think Emily Maitlis said after the general election, it was a succession of mistakes. It wasn't a conspiracy. Now, that may well be so, but if it's such a succession of mistakes on such a consistent and constant basis, are they then fit for purpose if they're unable to broadcast in a way that doesn't make mistakes all of the time? And that is a concern. I think one of the things that we see with All Under One Banner is the sharp contrast between the coverage of events in Scotland by the established media here and the coverage of those same events by the media around the world. Yeah. I think the worldwide media's reporting of the general election and the election of Boris Johnson is extremely different to that which we see here, and it's the same differences that we see in the treatment of All Under One Banner. We have worldwide press attention, all corners of the globe this week. We'll get every major broadcaster and some very serious and significant print media. I was speaking with the European correspondent of the Nikkei, which is the Japanese equivalent of the Financial Times, and he's coming to Glasgow to report on the march next week because they see it as being significant in terms of reporting politics in the United Kingdom and Europe for that matter. So I think that contrast which we in All Under One Banner see all the time is telling, and it may just be that it has to be domestic politics. And treating UK politics as domestic politics, but as I say, there is a sharp contrast between both the interest and the attention and the manner of the reporting that we see of the marches and of the activities of All Under One Banner, and that's a concern as well. I can maybe only hope that citizen journalism and grassroots journalism and I've been criticised. Well, I might be thought to be being critical of Facebook, but those sorts of platforms also provide platforms for citizens to get their messages and to communicate. And so I think there is greater and greater opportunity for more people to communicate and to report what they are seeing. And to be fair to the BBC, Katrina Renton came to the march in Edinburgh, and there was some reporting into Reporting Scotland, I think, that day on a Saturday. But the overall approach and the tone and the angle from which the marches are reported, as I say, couldn't be more different between the UK established media and the other established media around the world.
And I will just say at this point, if you do want to talk about this on Twitter, you can use the hashtag #FullScottish. You can contribute your thoughts. We will show them on the screen as they appear. And as well, if you want to support giving a bit of balance to the media, you can always go to broadcastingscotland.scot/donate and throw us a few quid to help us provide some of that balance. We will move on a little bit. Labour Party is, of course, looking for a new leader. We've seen a number of people declare. Emily Thornberry, Clive Lewis, Jess Phillips, Lisa Nandy, Keir Starmer and Rebecca Long-Bailey, and others, including Yvette Cooper and Ian Lavery, are expected to do so, but haven't done so officially yet. This comes as the STUC has suggested that the Labour Party in Scotland should consider welcoming a vote on independence, which is a wee bit of a turnaround. What do you think this direction of the STUC means for Labour, first of all? And what's your tip for the Labour leadership?
I don't have a tip for the Labour leadership. I suppose Keir Starmer seems to be out front there. Yeah, interesting that there's so many contenders. I would say that that's a mark of just what the mess they're in. To be honest, all these different strands coming together. Be an interesting one to watch. Of course, in Scotland, it's interesting too. We now have calls not just from the STUC, but from some of the MSPs saying democracy, back to that democratic process, would say that yes, we should have a referendum, and that's really interesting. But it seems to me as well that every time there's a momentum, and for going towards independence, whether it be for a referendum or whether it be the full independence, Labour come up with something. It might well be they come up with the big plan for federalism. We've had that umpteen times. Now we're getting this other plan where some of them are saying back to the third question on the referendum paper. It just seems to be every time we're moving on they come up with something, and it's beginning to lose credibility. I can't get over the fact that at the last referendum the Labour Party stopped us getting independence, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't think they did it from anything other than we want power back. There's a thing about them having been the branch office, that's all covered. Of course it is. But I do think there is still an issue with Scottish Labour that thinks it's their right to be running Scotland, regardless of how they've been hammered over the last years, regardless of the mess that they're in, a very obvious mess. They still seem to think that they have had their rights snatched away from them. Until they get over that, they're not going to move on in any significant way. And I know that there's Labour supporters that believe in independence. I remember Labour members saying to me during the referendum, I never signed up against independence. Nobody put on my membership card that I'm opposed to independence. Why is Joanne Lamont talking on my behalf? So they need to just recognise that that's a fact, and they need to approach true democracy, which is, yes, we have people that believe in independence, we can be open about that, let's talk about that, then they can start to move on. And until they do that, I think they're in a hiding to nothing. They can talk all they like, they can make every vow that they want. People are just not believing it anymore.
Yeah. Andrew, we've only got 20 minutes left in the show, so
sort it, Andrew.
We can't dissect the Labour Party in too great detail. But, with a new leader, what do you think the Labour Party will need to do to win back support, first in Scotland and maybe a wee bit in the rest of the UK as well?
I've probably got an even more controversial view. I wonder, and it pains me to say it, I wonder whether we're at a stage in our politics just now where the Labour Party is facing an existential threat. I think in Scotland, as Linda was saying, their apparent unwillingness or inability to confront reality and to confront the history of Scotland's experience under Labour administrations going back a very long time. I think an unwillingness to confront that and be honest about it and deal with it is rendering much of what the Labour Party has to say in Scotland irrelevant, frankly. If when they are conducting themselves in the chamber of the Scottish Parliament they are unable to distinguish between matters which are reserved and are not reserved, that indicates that either they don't understand or they're not paying attention. And I think in particular the failure to own and deal with the legacy of Labour administrations in Scotland and Labour governments in Scotland I think that is a problem that is a boil that will have to be lanced, painful though it may be, if they are to regain relevancy and weight in the and credibility and debate weight in the debates that we have. It seems difficult at the moment with regard to Scottish Labour to hear them very often saying things which are relevant and which to me would resonate with potential voters. Of course they have a strong support in Scotland. You would expect that the party was founded here. But the relevancy of the party, I think, to voters in the 21st century in Scotland is a problem, and it is and has been reflected in the polls again. And I think for slightly different reasons that's even more so the case with the Labour Party in England and Wales. The lack of direction which the party has, the lack of strong leadership which the party has, and their catastrophic performance in the last general election. I know it is a problem that socially democratic parties face from time to time. Their core voters either become wealthier as a result, better off as a result of their policies, and so now no longer vote for them, or their voters who have not become wealthier as a result of their policies then desert them because things haven't moved, which is a real challenge. And I wonder whether we are beginning to approach that point in UK politics. Because, as I say, in a UK sense, the lowest number of MPs since 1935, I think, in England and Wales, and a party which is treated by the vast majority of the print media as at best an irrelevance and at worst a joke, and that pains me to say it, because in part we've arrived at where we are now because we have not had an effective UK opposition party for the last parliament and a half, and in our form of democracy that's a real problem.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we will obviously keep up to date. The Labour Party election is bound to contain some entertainment. So we will keep watching that. But on to politics, probably closer to all of our hearts here. On next Saturday, Andrew, I believe there's a big event happening in Glasgow.
Yes, of course.
This is the All Under One Banner March. This was called in response to the election result. So tell us a wee bit first, just what was it that made you think this was so important to get people out on the street in the middle of winter?
Of course. Well, it's one of the stated and one of the written key aims of All Under One Banner that we demonstrate and we highlight the democratic deficit which people who live in Scotland suffer from. It affects their lives. And in terms of demonstrating the democratic deficit for people who live in Scotland, I don't think there's been a greater demonstration for several years than the last general election. In terms of the changes in the vote for the Conservative Party, the vote for the Conservatives in Scotland went down, and in England and Wales it went up. Scotland again finds itself with a UK government that it didn't vote for. It finds itself with a Prime Minister who many in Scotland find very difficult, and certainly find that he does not reflect their values and their views and their experience and their aspirations. And so we felt very strongly that the political circumstances were becoming quite exceptional. The democratic deficit was being laid out in even more sharply and clearly than had been the case for some time. And a Westminster government, which we didn't vote for, and an extremist Westminster government in many ways from what manifesto we saw from them, that combined with a government that, as I say, we didn't vote for, the view was that we ought to really provide a platform to people to make clear their opposition and their dissatisfaction with what has unfolded in these exceptional circumstances. So, exceptional circumstances require an exceptional response, and asking people, or providing a platform, or encouraging people to march in January in Scotland is quite exceptional. But that's why we've done it.
Well, Broadcasting Scotland will be there, of course. How many people are you expecting to turn up on this cold Saturday morning?
Now, the numbers game for these marches is always a matter of close attention. It's almost like gates at football games. What I will say at this point, I will stick to the facts. The last march in Glasgow, we estimate that there were around 100,000 people participated. For All Under One Banner, Facebook raises its head again. Our events are usually launched and are made public using Facebook as a platform. Facebook provides engagement, people who look at what we are saying, people who then react to what we are saying. Facebook is all about data, so we can see what that means. So we know that for the event next weekend, that on Facebook, 1.1 million people have seen what we are doing.
Wow.
We know that as of this morning when I last checked, 61,000 people have said that they are either interested in participating or they will participate. Now, those are just numbers. What we are seeing, however, is that 61,000 number is 3 times larger than for any other previous All Under One Banner march. Wow. So the reaction online on Facebook at Christmas time, immediately after a general election, was significantly higher than we have seen engagement, some of the same engagement before. Now, I'm not going to extrapolate because I'm trying to stick to numbers. I'm not going to extrapolate that engagement to the number of people who I'm not going to say that. However, we are very encouraged by that level of engagement, and we can see from the reaction that we receive from people in the street and online that either people who have made the journey from no to yes are now feeling feeling even more motivated and wish to participate openly in public to talk about their journey from no to yes. And also, we're seeing responses and engagement from people who have always been yes, but have never felt motivated to stand in the rain or outside in the cold in Glasgow in January. And they are saying that they now wish to get off their sofas and come and join us and make their views on these things clear. One other thing, and I'm not going to labour the data point, but one other thing that I can certainly see is that the engagement I was talking about, the 61,000 people who have said that they will either attend or they are interested in attending, we can see those numbers divided up according to ages and also according to gender. And in every age demographic, for those who have engaged with us, the majority of people engaging are women. And I think that's a change, and I think that's an important change. We want everybody to be engaged, and as we know from All Under One Banner marches, they could not be more inclusive. They are broad, happy, enthusiastic, family-based. Anyone who is supportive of the message of All Under One Banner regarding the democratic deficit and regarding independence for Scotland is welcome to participate and to bring their dogs along as well, and they often do.
I was just going to say, one of my friends, the absolute highlight for her is the dogs.
Every time. So everyone is welcome, but I think it is instructive that, as I say, for the engagements for this march, a majority of those who, for each age demographic, the majority who are engaging are women. I think that's extremely encouraging.
So Linda, just turning to you for a minute, what do you think these marches achieve? What do you think the value of the marches is to the movement?
They've got huge value. Huge value. You know, it's easy to knock these things, but the value of people standing up for what they believe in and making the effort to come out and show the rest of the world that they're willing to stand up for what they believe in. It's a great thing. So it encourages and keeps a movement together, those who've already made the journey. But what it also does is lets those who are maybe halfway along that road see that there's a lot of very ordinary people from all walks of life, all demographics, who are saying, we believe we can have a better future. So that encourages that as well. There's always going to be a small band of people who will never change their mind. And we have to recognise that. Some of them turn up and counter-demonstrate and give the rest of us a bit of a laugh. But, you know, I haven't seen them having great big marches of the kind that we have all under one banner. We do see them having other kinds of marches that we don't have time to go into. However, I think it's very, very important. And I think the work that All Under One Banner has done is great for that. Yes, it's had troubles, of course it has. You can't motivate thousands and thousands of people and have everything going plain sailing. Of course you can. It's a vital part of the independence movement. Because as an SNP politician, it's not all about the SNP. We recognise that. It's further afield than that. There's loads of folk that believe in independence that have no interest at all in joining a political party and being active within it. It comes from the heart and it comes from the head. And people want to show that. And it's vital for democracy as well. There's been a democracy theme today. And this kind of thing, vital for democracy, that we are able to stand up and show what we believe in.
And just on that data point that Andrew brought up,
It's interesting.
what do you think that means that we're seeing more engagement from women? I mean, this has been a thorn in the side of the independence movement for a while.
Yeah, well, you know, women are generally, from all the studies that I have read, much slower to come round to change, because their immediate thought is about their families, their children, and how it affects everything. So I'm really heartened to hear what Andrew said across the demographic, women, and it would suggest to me, like I've spoken to a lot of women about this, that there's a broad movement there of women who are just saying, enough, had it, enough. And I think the reality is now that people are realising that it's not getting any better. All the promises have come to naught. There is no respect for Scotland within the UK settlement. They look at what's in charge. They look at the opposition, because let's face it, we have suffered greatly, whether it be Brexit, whether it be social policy. Scotland has suffered greatly from the fact that there isn't a viable main opposition down at Westminster. And I think women have now got to the point where they said, enough, I'm getting it now and I'm ready to make this step.
And is that something that you're seeing in your own constituency, in your own contact with
Yes,
voters?
I think what's and it is more women. I hadn't really thought about it before, and I would say where I'm seeing it most is with, I suppose it's my own age group, elderly women. Women of a certain age, let's say, and then my age and beyond, who are now coming round to it. Women that I would never have thought of before would have. And I think there's also that thing that says, it's not all about me. It's about those coming after me, and it's about those round about me. And it's been a slow burn, and I think it's starting to bubble.
So Andrew, tell us a wee bit about the event itself. So what time are we kicking off? Where are we going? What's happening? Who's going to be speaking and all that kind of thing?
Of course, the timing for next Saturday's march is slightly different from the more normal pattern that we would see, and that is principally because we're in January, and so there is less daylight. For anyone who campaigned during December, we know there is less daylight at this time of year. So the march will depart from Kelvin Way in Kelvingrove Park at 11:30 next Saturday. We will depart from Kelvin Way at 11:30 a.m. sharp, as required, and the route will take us into the city centre and then down Union Street and towards the Clyde, and then along the Clyde to Glasgow Green in a general pattern. I should also say that, as with all of the marches, the final decision regarding timing and route lies with Glasgow City Council and with Police Scotland. However, as matters stand at the moment, the route and the timing are agreed, and I've not seen any suggestion that they are going to change. So the march will be very much for anyone who's been before, it will look and feel very much as previous marches have done, with lots of different groups coming together. English for Indie, Labour for Indie, Yes groups from across the country. I know of people travelling from Islay, travelling from Inverness, travelling from the northeast already. And so a broad and inclusive group, all ages, all backgrounds, all nations as well, Europeans for Indy, all manner of people. Once we get to Glasgow Green, there will be a shorter than usual rally, again reflecting the time of year and the lack of temperature and the lack of daylight. But we expect to be seeing Craig Murray, the former UK ambassador, speaking. We expect to see Keith Brown, MSP, speaking. There are other speakers who are lining up at the moment who aren't yet quite confirmed, but I think we will see 4 or 5 speakers from across the independence movement, some aligned, some non-aligned, all with interesting and relevant things to say, speaking for a shorter period of time than would normally be the case in summertime marches.
Okay. Tell us about the All Under One Banner Assembly as well.
Yes, as part of our contribution to and our involvement with the broader Yes movement, you will have seen marches over the last few years engaging as strongly as possible with local Yes groups. We feel that it's important that whilst we might be seen as a national organisation, that these marches deliberately and intentionally take place in cities and towns across Scotland. So last year, for example, we were in Campbellton and Oban and Perth. This coming year in 2020, we will be in Arbroath, of course. We will be in Stirling, Kirkcaldy, Peebles, and Elgin, for example. So we engage with local Yes groups in detail to plan routes, to work out what would suit them best, what they would like to do. You will have seen in Aberdeen last year a representative of Yes Aberdeen at the very, very front of the march with the very large saltire, and that's an important demonstration of the way in which we engage. So Assembly is being organised and hosted in order to bring the broader independence movement together to promote those conversations and those discussions about what it is that they can do together with All Under One Banner to amplify and improve and broaden and deepen the activities and the conversations that we have. So we would anticipate, we expect to see, and we already have registered for Assembly, a number of Yes groups from across the country, organisations like Scottish Independence Foundation, other pressure organisations and broadcasters, and the intention is, so if people would like to participate, and we are including in those discussions activists who may not be aligned at all for whatever reason. So anyone who would like to attend Assembly, which will be in February in Glasgow, and will be an afternoon of discussion and debate and workshops to talk about how we move the movement and All Under One Banner into 2020 and beyond. Anyone who wishes to attend is welcome to register. Registration is through the All Under One Banner website. There's a registration page there, and following registration, people will be invited to attend.
Great. So, just before we go, because you have just launched this website quite recently, what is the website?
I was going to say, we were using allunderOneBanner.scot was previously. Okay. People who go to the website will see a brand new website which has recently gone live and includes registration for a number of things, not just registration for Assembly. So if people would like to volunteer, if people would like to work as stewards or first aiders at the marches, information and registration pages are on that website as well. So I would encourage people to have a look, because there is also the All Under One Banner calendar is also for sale on that website, and it's selling extremely well. So I would encourage people to have a look and to register on that website.
Brilliant. Well, that has just brought us nicely to the end of the hour. So thank you very much to Andrew from All Under One Banner and to Linda Fabiani, MSP, for joining us today. It's been a really quick hour. We've had a lot to talk about. So yeah, would just like to thank you for joining us as well. Did mention a wee bit earlier in the show that we are always looking for money to support the channel here. We've done fairly well in our crowdfunding. We did meet our target, but that target was just to keep the lights on. Basically, that just pays the bills. What we need now is more money to start developing the kinds of programs that we want to bring to you. So if you're able to support us in any way, please do go to broadcastingscotland.scot/register. Sign up as a supporter. Your £5 a month will make a huge difference to the kind of programs that we can bring you. And believe me, everybody here wants better media, more Scottish programmes being produced, more different types of Scottish programmes being produced. The whole purpose of Broadcasting Scotland is to be the independent TV channel for Scotland, and but we need your support to make it happen. So if you can support us, please do. If you can't, don't panic. The shows will always be free to view online, and you'll always be welcome to watch. And you're also always welcome to come and say hello to us. As I say, we will be at the march, so we'll look forward to seeing all of you then. But until then, thank you very much again to Linda. Thank you to Andrew. Thank you to all of you for joining us. This has been the Full Scottish on Broadcasting Scotland. I've been Kenny McBride. Have a great day.